Okay, guys, welcome back. Durante here. We're going to pick up in session 2, and we're going to provide the framework for structuring our second problem. Situation: you want to purchase a commercial property, but there's either no capital, limited capital, no credit, or limited credit or bad credit. Then this is what I would do first to begin taking on this particular project. All right. So the framework here is that we're looking for 100% financing. Now that creates some unique challenges because the rules are buyers do not make money and 100% financing won't close the deal. So we got some things to work with here. All right. And we aren't going to do any seller financing, no seller carryback, so we got to structure this a little differently. Now, the 100% financing is not going to work. It's not going to be enough because we got the closing costs to deal with. And that can run $600. And then you have the taxes and insurance. Typically, you're going to buy the escrow account. There is a way around that. You can actually, in the offer, insert the clause that the escrow accounts to be transferred in lieu of proration, and that basically would give you the escrow account, and you won't have to pay taxes and insurance. That's assuming that there is an escrow account. If it's not an escrow account, you're going to have to raise the capital for the actual closing costs, which means 100% financing won't close your deal. But we know that up front because we're doing everything in advance. So we're going to have to consider either raising the capital to cover the closing costs, because if we get the investor to put up the 100%, we structure the 100% financing, we still can't close because we don't have the money to fund the closing costs and the taxes and insurance. So the other alternative to look at while we're doing this is that 100% financing won't work if we want to do a truly no money down deal. We're going to have to peak it and kick it up to 105 or 110% LTC. So it can be done. You're going to see how we do it. But the thing to remember is because of the LTV is so high, the cash flow is going to take the hit on it. You say, well, and the fact that you're not putting a dime in it, you can't complain about any of it. All right. So here's how we're going to approach this. We need to get some questions. Problem is the capital and credit situation. Okay. So before we approach it, we need to get some answers to some questions. We just need to know what we're working with. We're transaction engineers, and we work with what we have. We're gonna bake a cake, a pie, or make some cookies out of what we have here. Okay, that's the approach. We're gonna make something work. We're gonna put something together here, and we're gonna use what we have. We just need to know what we actually have to work with. Is there a down payment? Is there seller financing? No, we aren't doing that. We can use external financing, but the external financing can have the credit status can impact that. And if the credit's bad or none, can we still do it? Yes, we'll just have to use a different financing vehicle, which means we will probably have to use an asset-based lender versus a income-based lender, but we can still get it done. All right, so it's just navigating around, but initially we just need to know what we're working with. The property type, apartments all over the place, is preference, or net lease properties, or even mini storage properties, and they can be beneficial. Each one has its pros and cons, and that's why when you say you want to buy a property, the type of property is important. But the way I look at this, if you're looking to do a no money down deal, then you want to use any kind of property that will allow you to do that. Okay? So I want to show you the options in the way to actually look at this. And then the property condition. Typically, you want a multifamily property or a mini storage property to be at least 85% occupied. Here's the rationale. If the property is 85% occupied, it'll basically finance 85% of itself. If it's below 85% occupancy, you are going to have to qualify personally for the entire thing. And in some cases, you may have to guarantee recourse or non-recourse a portion of it. It's best to stay with income properties, not just commercial properties, and focus on properties that are at least 85% occupied and that are cash flowing and that are new. You don't want any rehab or fixer-uppers here. Now, if it's 85% occupied and it still needs some renovations, it'll still work. Okay? So keep that in mind in terms of the property. Now, how long are you going to hold it? And I'm going to recommend that you hold it for at least 12 months and a day, so you won't get hit with short-term capital gains. All right? So we just need to know that, because the framework will work regardless of the property, just a few adjustments. And I'm going to show you the offer that I'm going to make. Now, I talked about the properties. Multifamilies is the preferred property. And if you're going to do multifamily, you don't want junk properties. You need premium properties, properties that are cash flowing, new properties, and they have to be 85% occupied. You okay? Now, the downside of apartments is to increase the value because of the offer that we're going to make to the investors. We need to be able to increase the value of the property over 24 months enough, at least by 20%, in order to pull our equity out to repay the investor. But the multifamily properties, it's typically apartments, you're going to typically take you 12 months because you're tied into mostly 12-month leases. That's the downside. So it'll be 12 months before you get all of the properties up to market rent or increased. And you're going to have to wait till you do that before you can pull the trigger on the best part of your offer for your investors to come into the deal with you. Storage properties are a little different. You take the same units, and because they are month-to-month leases, you can buy the property in January, give an advance notice in February that there's a $10 increase across the board, and it goes into effect in March. So you don't have to wait 12 months, which means you can kick the value and push the value of this property up in less time than you can a multifamily. So what you buy, the pros and cons here, is the mini storage is more of a business. You got to have employees to run it. It's open 7 days a week. So with the mini storage, you're going to have employees. You're going to need at least 3. You're going to need a full-time one for the weekdays and a part-time one for the weekend, and a third one in case one of those don't show up. All right? It's not 24/7, but it's 9 to 5, 7 days a week. You got electronic access, but still, even with that, you have to deal with the fact you have to have a person there. The apartments, you don't have that issue. All right? So it's a juggling act. All right? Now, we're going to use the same property we had originally. It's $1 million property. 1.3, we got it down to $1 million. We're going to go with a first mortgage of 80%, $800,000. And we want our investors to put that $200,000 in here at 20%. But remember what I shared with you earlier, that 100% won't close this deal. Okay? Just remember that. So what we're going to do, framework here. We want the principal must be secured. Just remember the fiduciary obligation here. You got to work on behalf and look out for the investor first, not yourself. The principal has to be repaid in 24 months. That's the juice in your offer. That's part of the strength in it. It removes a lot of risk. And that repayment during those 24-month periods is the note secured so the investor doesn't worry. If you skip town or drop dead, he is covered even after your death because he has a secured debt against that property. All right. Now, this is where the 10 to 20% comes in. We initially were asking for 20% equity, but we might need, depending on our capital resources, dealing with that escrow account, we may need to offer and ask for 30%, leverage the property to 110, so we can not just purchase it, but so we can actually have those prepaid taxes and insurance and closing costs covered. All right. If not, we're going to have to write a check. If we put this deal together and you get 100% financing, guys, put your $200,000 up, and you're not able to pay the closing costs, you're done. You're done and you're dead in the water. Don't do this because you can't close. And the only thing you're going to do is wreck your name, and nobody's going to deal with you. So count the costs and know what you're doing. All right. Now, we're going to offer investors 20 to 30% of the write-offs. Whatever they put in, that's their percentage of ownership. Guy puts 60% in, you're going to offer 60% ownership. You say, well, you can put 60% in and offer him 10. You can do that if you want to. I wouldn't do that. You want to do people the way you want to be done. And that goes back to your fiduciary obligation. Doing unto others as you would have them to do unto you. Don't be a pig here. Help people, not help yourself. Help people, and you'll be helped. All right. Same here on the net profits. After, and this is where the juice of the deal, where the appeal and the appeal to the investor's greed and the security and return on investment kicks in. This is the juice, the superpower in the transaction. In 24 months, you're going to get the capital back. So that's done. On the 25th month, this item 3 kicks in. Now they have their 200,000 back, and they now get 20 to 30% ownership. They got that. And now they're going to get 30% of the write-offs, 30% of the net income. That's net. In addition, remember, they already have the 200,000 back. And we're going to give them 30% of the profits if I sell, 30%, 20 to 30% of the profits if we refi. And remember, the whole objective here is to remove the risk, and we do that by securing the debt. You got to look at it now from an investor's viewpoint, not your viewpoint. Because remember, at the end of the day, you don't have anything in this. So you can't be a pig and take advantage of people. You got to make it good for everybody. And if anybody's going to lose, it's going to be you. 24-month principal return. You have got to return the principal in 24 months. No excuses, no exceptions. That's the deal. All right. Benefit to the investor is no management concerns. No phone calls from tenants, none of that. All right. And he has that residual income after getting back to principal, which is pretty awesome. So he gets his money back, and he still receives an income as long as you own and manage the property, and his income is tied to his percentage. And if he puts 30% in, he gets 30% of the profits. It's just that simple. You say, well, you're giving away a lot. You didn't put anything in this deal, and don't ever forget that. So you should, if anything, you're entitled to get the least amount. All you're doing is managing the property. Don't forget that. So your investor put real capital in. You need to protect that. Why? You want to do this right with him and do him right and bring your A game, because if you do that, he's there for you on your next deal and your next deal and your next deal and your next deal. That's why you want to do this right. Don't mess up. All right. So we basically dealing with the greed versus risk. And that's what this is about. That's the structure of the framework of it. And then what we do next is we take the numbers and make sure the numbers work. Now, here with the numbers is something I want to point out. In the paper boot camp, we go into a lot more detail than this, into this. But if this property has a mortgage on it, and typically the mortgages are listed as an expense, if we're looking to purchase it and we are not going to assume the mortgage, we're going to have to pull that money out of the mortgage and add it to the income. But if we're going to assume that mortgage, we leave it in as an expense. All right? Just a little technicality there. But we work now with our chart. We run our numbers. We get on the phone, talk to our lenders, put our rates together, confirm and validate everything we can get. If we can't get 80% and can only get 70%, then we know that in advance. Then we make the adjustments in our numbers. All right? So, short story. 1, appeal to the investor's greed. That's what we're doing. Removing the risk out of the deal. Securing the debt. That's the risk removal. Guaranteeing a 24-month repay. That's the greed factor. Everything else is greed appeal. Percentage of the net income, percentage of the write-offs, percentage of the profits if you sell it, percentage of the profits if you refi. Either way, if you pull any capital out of this property in any manner while you own it, this individual, your investor, gets 20 to 30% of that. Okay, that's how it works. All right, and remember, you have a fiduciary responsibility here. And let me just tell you what that means. If anybody's gonna lose, it's gonna be you. You gotta take that attitude. You gotta look out for your investor. He cannot lose. You do. You're willing to lose. If anybody loses, it needs to be you. The burden on this deal is on you. Don't do no deal making promises and you can't deliver on them because of moral issues. You all right? I ain't got nothing in it. I'll just walk away. Ain't nothing they can do. Don't even think like that. It's a lot they don't have to do. It's going to be done to you. Just natural. Bottom line here is do the right thing and put your client first and make sure they win. And they'll always be there for you on your next deal and your next deal, and they'll bring their friends to you. So when you structure a deal like this, there's a lot of responsibility and all of your credibility is on the line. And you need to, be aware of that. Okay? So the investor has to win, even if it means you losing. Your investor cannot lose. And that's the attitude you have to have. And if you are not willing to do that, to take that responsibility, then you don't want to do this. And you shouldn't do that. You should leave it alone. But if you are, then that's the structure for it. And that pretty much is my first solution to structuring a high leverage transaction without any seller carryback. All right. That wraps this session up. And hey, see you in the next session.